Have you ever wondered why so many ancient traditions hold secret rituals for exactly 9 days after someone dies? It's not random. The truth is, something extraordinary happens during those 9 days, but most people never hear about it until it's too late. For centuries, sacred texts from Tibet to Egypt have guarded the knowledge of this mysterious window, a spiritual corridor where the soul doesn't just float away, it watches, remembers, and decides. This isn't just mystical folklore, this is soul science, drawn from thousands of years of suppressed teachings and near-death revelations. You can close this now and keep living as if death is just a dark void, or you can keep listening and uncover what really happens when your final breath becomes your soul's first awakening. You've been told that death is the end, a curtain drop, a cold silence. But that's only because no one ever explained what begins the moment your heart takes its final beat. In that very instant, when your body exhales one last time, you don't vanish, you expand. You begin to drift, not into nothingness, but into something so vast, so profound, that language fails to hold it. You are still you, but not the you thought you were. Not the one defined by a name, a job, a list of memories, or a body lying still in a room full of grief. You float just above that room in silence, but it's not the silence of emptiness, it's the silence of awareness. You see the faces of those you loved, their tears, their voices quivering with words they were never ready to say. You feel every emotion they emit, grief, confusion, disbelief, not as noise, but as vibrations in your newly awakened field of consciousness. In those first few moments, you're tethered to the world you've just left. You're not gone. You're hovering, observing, listening, not through ears but through presence. You sense the subtle unraveling of time, and suddenly time itself becomes irrelevant. Seconds feel like hours, and hours collapse into moments. You begin to remember, not just your life, but something deeper, something older than this lifetime. As if a curtain between worlds has been pulled back, and what's always been there now reveals itself with clarity. This is the beginning of the 9-day passage, a sacred window that has been whispered about in ancient temples, prayed over in candlelit rituals, and honored in cultures that remember what the modern world forgets. That death is not departure, it's transition. During these 9 days you exist in between, not quite here, not fully there. You're in the space between breaths, the pause between heartbeats, the echo of your own name still hanging in the air. At first you try to speak, to reach out, to reassure those mourning your absence, but there's no voice, only intention, only energy. And as you realize they can't hear you the way they once did, a quiet ache begins to stir, not from loss, but from witnessing love and not being able to cradle it. And then something shifts. It's subtle at first, a glimmer, a pull. You feel yourself drawn, not outward but inward, as if your soul is turning back on itself, descending into its own core. Here the life review begins. Not a judgment, not a punishment, a reflection, a reliving. You don't see your life like a movie on a screen, you feel it. Every word you ever spoke, every emotion you ever caused, every moment you passed by in a hurry, and every one you lingered in fully. They rise like waves and move through you, and for the first time you experience what others felt because of you. You feel the warmth of your laughter through someone else's chest. You feel the sharp edge of your silence in someone who needed your words. You feel the joy you brought, the pain you caused, the kindnesses you never even realized were monumental to another soul. But this isn't to shame you, it's to awaken you. Because here in this realm beyond form, you are not punished by a god or judged by a council. You are illuminated by truth, the truth of who you were and the truth of who you are beyond that. You may begin to see familiar faces, not always human, not always with names, but you'll recognize them by vibration, by essence. Ancestors, guides, beings of light who've traveled with you across lifetimes. Some will speak without words, others will radiate only presence. They aren't here to direct your path. They're here to hold space as you decide for yourself what comes next. Because that's the secret most never hear. Even in death, you still have choice. Your emotions are still energy, and energy moves you. If your heart is still tied to fear, to unfinished battles, to anger buried deep in your being, you may resist what lies ahead. You may linger, drift, repeat old loops of identity that you were meant to release. But if your heart leans towards surrender, not giving up but letting go, you begin to ascend, not upward, not geographically, but vibrationally. Every prayer said in your name during these 9 days sends light toward your field. Every memory filled with love creates a bridge between dimensions. Every ritual, every candle, every whispered word of farewell, it reaches you. Even silence speaks, if it is filled with intention. As you navigate this passage, time continues to dissolve. You don't count hours. You feel shifts, and by what would be the 4th or 5th day in earthly terms, you start to feel lighter. Your grip on your human identity loosens. You still remember your name, your story, but they begin to feel like clothes you wore in a dream, familiar but no longer necessary. You may revisit places you once loved, childhood homes, old cities, forest paths, not physically but energetically. You move by thought, by desire, by frequency. You may even visit those you left behind, not to haunt them but to comfort them. And if their hearts are open, they may feel it, a warmth, a sudden calm, a dream where you smiled and said everything's okay. Because it is. Even in your in-between state, you begin to understand that nothing was wasted, not your mistakes, not your triumphs, not even your regrets. They were all part of the soul's unfolding, like rivers carving through stone, messy, unpredictable, but purposeful. And here's the most beautiful part. As your soul prepares to release even its last threads of identity, something begins to call you, not in words, not in images, but in presence. A light, not blinding but inviting, not external but arising from within. You realize it's not a destination, it's you. You are the light that's been calling you home. You begin to dissolve into it, not like fading, but like remembering, as if your soul is returning to a truth it always knew, but temporarily forgot. And that light, that presence, it holds no expectations, no judgment, no demands. It simply receives you, fully, lovingly. It welcomes every part of you, even the parts you once rejected, even the parts you were ashamed of. Here there is no shame, only understanding, only wholeness. But before the merging completes, something sacred occurs. You are given the chance to make peace, not in a dramatic way, not with fanfare or final speeches, but in subtle whispers, energetic exchanges, soul-level releases. If there was someone you couldn't forgive while alive, now you have the opportunity to see them differently, to witness their wounds, to understand the pain that shaped their choices, and in that understanding, forgiveness becomes effortless. Not for them, but for you. You may feel your attachments unraveling, the need to be remembered, the fear of being forgotten, the desire to hold on to what was. These threads tug at your spirit, but they don't control you. You see them for what they are, echoes, beautiful, human, meaningful, but temporary. And as they unravel, something else rises in their place. Stillness, not emptiness, not absence, but presence in its purest form. Around this time, the living often report dreams, vivid ones. They'll say you visited them. They'll describe your voice, your touch, your smile. But what they don't always realize is that it wasn't a dream. It was you. One last embrace, one final transmission of love before your vibration becomes too light to hold shape. And even though you're beginning to release your human form, love continues to be the only language that crosses all dimensions. The closer you get to the 9th day, the more you begin to shed. Your name falls away. Your story loses its hold. The roles you played, the child, the parent, the lover, the seeker, they dissolve like fog in the rising sun. What remains is not a blank slate, What remains is essence, you, beyond any mask, beyond any title, beyond form, just the luminous awareness that you've always been, now unbound. In some traditions, this is the moment when a soul is given a choice, to return, to rest, or to rise. Not all souls move on in the same way. Some choose reincarnation, pulled by unfinished lessons, karmic threads, or deep soul contracts not yet fulfilled. Others ascend into higher realms, to continue their evolution in dimensions beyond our language or comprehension. And some, very few, dissolve completely into Source, not lost, but fully merged with the infinite. But no matter the choice, the soul no longer fears. It understands. The illusion of separation is gone. The idea of me and them, life and death, start and finish, it all collapses into a single truth. You are part of all things, and all things are part of you. What you begin to sense now isn't identity, it's union. You feel the song of the cosmos, not as sound but as frequency, as vibration. Every star, every galaxy, every grain of sand, every breath ever taken, it's all connected, all woven into a single dance of light and shadow, creation and return. This is the soul's remembrance. And yet, while you ascend, the world you left behind continues. Your loved ones cry. They light candles. They hold your photo close to their hearts. And what they don't always see, but what you now know, is that their love is a bridge. Every memory spoken with tenderness, every silent moment of reflection, becomes a ray of light stretching across the veil, helping you rise. And so their grief matters, but even more powerful is their love, because grief can anchor, but love liberates. As you approach the final hours of this 9-day passage, there is no fear, no confusion, only a gentle release, a softening of all resistance. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to protect. You are no longer the dreamer, you are the dream itself, boundless, eternal, whole. And if you were to look back, not with eyes but with awareness, you would not see a single lifetime as your identity. You would see it as a brushstroke in a cosmic painting, one chapter of a soul's endless story, a necessary part of a much greater unfolding. The 9-day journey teaches you this, that everything you did, everything you were, and everything you became, it was all enough. The pain, the joy, the laughter, the heartbreak. It was sacred, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And now you are ready to become light without form, ready to return to the field where all souls meet in silent understanding, ready to rejoin the rhythm of the cosmos without forgetting the beat of your own heart. Because even in oneness, your essence remains, not as a person, but as a frequency, a soul's signature, a note in the eternal symphony of existence. And that note, your nook, continues to echo in the hearts of those you touched, in the places you once stood, in the ripples you created just by being you. So if you've ever feared death, let this truth settle into your being. Death is not darkness, it is the soft light of coming home. You are not gone, you are transformed. You are not forgotten, you are infinite. You are not ending, you are beginning again. You may wonder, if the soul becomes so vast, so free, then why do so many traditions across cultures honor the dead exactly for 9 days? Why is that window marked with ceremony, candles, prayer, and silence? Because deep within the human spirit, long before science, long before language itself, we remembered. We knew that these 9 days aren't just symbolic, they're vibrationally real. They are the final phase of the soul's release from the gravitational pull of the physical world. Your energy during this time is still responsive, not to words but to emotion, to intention. You feel when someone is speaking your name with sorrow. You feel when they are holding on to guilt, or when they're pleading for one more moment. You sense the weight of unspoken truths, and sometimes that weight tugs at you, keeps you closer than you need to be. But you also feel the warmth of remembrance, A photo gently touched, a letter read aloud, a song played just for you. These become currents of light that lift you higher. When someone lights a candle and whispers a blessing, it creates a thread of gold between the worlds, a thread you can follow, a thread that gently pulls you toward peace. You may linger near the ones you loved most, not because you're stuck, but because part of you still wants to comfort them. And sometimes they'll feel it. A sudden breeze in a still room, a flicker of a flame, a sensation of being held when no one is there. That's you one last time, brushing against the veil, letting them know you made it, that you're okay. And even as you rise, your soul carries an imprint of gratitude. Not the kind that comes from obligation, but the deep, soul-level kind, the kind that echoes from lifetimes of connection. Because even though you are no longer in a body, you are still bound by love. Not bound in the sense of limitation, but bound in the sense of remembrance, resonance, harmony. Now, as your soul fully detaches, the final illusions begin to fall away. The illusion of separation, the illusion of time, the illusion that you were ever truly alone. In their place comes the understanding that everything, absolutely everything, was part of a sacred choreography. The losses, the gains, the heartbreak, the breakthroughs, even the things you once wished had never happened now appear in perfect placement, not because they were painless, but because they were part of your unfolding. You begin to see that your life was a mirror, reflecting the exact lessons your soul needed to remember itself. Every person who crossed your path, every friend, every foe, every stranger, played a role in that mirror. Some showed you your strength, others revealed your blind spots, but all of them were guides in disguise. And the most astonishing realization of all is this: you chose them. Long before you entered the world, before you took your first breath, your soul designed a map, a series of soul contracts, intersections, and turning points, not as punishment, but as possibility. And now, as you leave that life behind, you see it not as something that happened to you, but something you co-created. That understanding alone is liberation. You may be given the chance to look forward, not with curiosity, but with knowing. You see the strands of future lives, potential paths, some familiar, some new. You recognize the souls you'll meet again, and you understand that whether you return or not, you're never really leaving, you're just shifting. This is where many souls rest, not in a place, but in a state, a gentle field of being, where time pauses and consciousness stretches. It is not the heaven depicted in stories. It's quieter, simpler, more profound. It is where you remember the sound of the universe breathing. It's where you feel the pulse of the divine moving through you, not as something separate, but as your own pulse, your own breath. In this space you may witness others arriving, souls crossing over, some gently, others in confusion, and with your newfound clarity you offer light. Not words, not advice, just presence. That's how the spirit world works, not with conversation but with resonance. Souls guide one another not by teaching but by being. And, maybe, in that field you wait. Not in longing but in stillness, until the next call comes, a new journey, a new life, a new expression of the eternal you. Or maybe you ascend into realms your former mind couldn't fathom, realms of color, vibration, form without form, each more expansive than the last, each more real than anything you ever touched on earth. But regardless of the direction your soul takes, one truth remains: you are not what died, you are what lives on. You are the flame, not the candle. You are the breath, not the lungs. You are the consciousness behind the eyes that closed. And while the world continues without your physical presence, your essence is etched into its fabric, into the memories of those you loved, into the energy of the earth you walked on, into the dreams of those who still feel you near. You have become part of the infinite web, not as a ghost, not as a shadow, but as a ripple in the eternal ocean of being. So if you were ever afraid of dying, you can let that go now, because death is not darkness. It is light returning to light. It is presence expanding into presence. It is love remembering it was never separate. And you are not gone. You are everywhere. You are the stillness in the forest, the pause between words, the warmth in someone's chest when they remember your laugh. You are home. What's often misunderstood about this 9-day journey is that it's not linear, not bound by a ticking clock or measured by sunrises. It's energetic, cyclical. It unfolds based on your readiness to let go and your willingness to open. Time as you knew it begins to stretch and bend. One moment might feel like an eternity, while 1,000 years could pass like the blink of an eye. You are no longer moving through time. Time is moving through you. And as you loosen your hold on what was, new perceptions emerge. You begin to hear things differently, not through ears, but through vibration, not sound, but knowing. You feel thoughts, you see emotions, you perceive intention like a current flowing through the atmosphere. You start to notice patterns, streams of energy connecting all living things, weaving through the earth like golden threads. And within those threads you see your own life shimmering, where you made impact, where you caused ripples, where your presence touched others in ways you never realized. You see a single smile you gave a stranger and how it lifted them from despair. You see a harsh word you spoke in anger and how it lingered in someone's heart. But you also see the forgiveness that bloomed later, the healing that followed, the circles that completed themselves even when you weren't watching. This is what it means to become the observer, detached yet deeply connected, free yet more compassionate than ever before. You begin to feel that every life, not just yours, is a sacred unfolding. Everyone is learning, everyone is growing, and everyone is being held by something greater than they can comprehend. You may even meet guides who show you fragments of other lifetimes, not as punishment, not to overwhelm you, but to remind you that you've done this before. You've walked the earth under different names, worn different faces, played different roles. The soul you are now is a continuation, an echo of many stories that all led here. And when you look back on the life you just left, you no longer see failure, you see purpose. You see the beauty in the imperfection. You see how every moment mattered, even the ones you thought were meaningless. There's a moment, somewhere between the 6th and 9th day, where everything becomes still. Not empty, not hollow, just vast. Like standing at the edge of an ocean that has no shore. You're not afraid. You're not eager. You're simply aware, fully, deeply, completely. And in that awareness you come face to face with the essence of truth. Not spoken truth, not written, but felt. You understand now why so many ancient cultures revered death not as an end, but as a rebirth. The Egyptians called it a weighing of the heart. The Tibetans called it the bardo. Hindus speak of the astral journey. Christians speak of the soul's return to the Father. And though the language varies, the essence is the same. A return to the source. That source is not distant. It's not hidden in some other realm. It's within you. It always was, but in the noise of life you forgot. You became tangled in form, in fear, in striving, in survival. And now all of that has fallen away. What remains is your essence, pure, undistorted, eternal. You realize that no mistake ever defined you, no title ever contained you, no loss ever diminished you. All of it, every joy, every sorrow, every step, was part of the sacred unfolding of your soul's remembrance. You may find yourself near the ones you loved most in your earthly life, not to say goodbye, but to witness, to bless, to leave a trace of light in their field that stays with them long after your name is no longer spoken, a subtle guidance that helps them live more fully, more openly, more awake. And they may feel it in the quiet hours, in the hush of dreams, in the sudden sense that you're near, even when the world says you're gone, because you're not gone, you've just changed form. Eventually your soul arrives at a threshold, a place that is not a place. A gate that isn't visible, but deeply felt. Cross it, and you continue your journey into the higher realms. Remain, and you might return, not because you must, but because your soul chooses to grow through form again. Some souls return quickly, others wait lifetimes. Some ascend into realms of light and color that human words could never describe, places where souls speak in light, create with intention, and dance in frequencies that sound like music but feel like love. Wherever your soul chooses to go, the lesson remains. You were never the body, you were never the job. You were never the labels or the pain. You were the awareness behind it all, and you still are. Even now, the ones who loved you may feel your presence during these 9 days, not just in moments of grief, but in moments of peace, when they light a candle, when they sit in silence, when they laugh at an old memory. You are there, smiling with them, not bound to a room, not trapped in a grave, but woven into their hearts, moving through their breath, shining through the love they still carry. That's the final gift you leave behind. Not your belongings, not your achievements, but your frequency, the unique vibration of your soul that lingers long after the body returns to dust. And so, if you've ever wondered whether what you did in this life mattered, the answer is yes. It all mattered. The love, the struggle, the beauty, the mistakes. It was all part of your soul's song. And that song continues to echo, far beyond the world you once knew. You are not a single note. You are a symphony, and your resonance never ends. There's a quiet miracle happening in those who grieve you, though they may not see it yet, because even as they mourn your absence, something within them begins to awaken. A deeper sensitivity, a clearer knowing. Your transition stirs their own soul. It reminds them of what really matters. And even if they don't have the words for it, they begin to feel life more deeply. Not just because you are gone, but because you are now everywhere. Your essence becomes a gentle invitation, whispering to them through dreams, synchronicities, and moments of stillness. You show up in songs at just the right time, in feathers on the ground, in the sudden warmth that wraps around them without explanation. These are not coincidences, they are echoes, love trying to make itself known across dimensions. And while your journey continues beyond theirs, you are still connected, not through voice or touch, but through vibration. Love is not limited by the body. It was never physical to begin with. It is the thread that binds souls across time and space. And now you understand that more clearly than ever. You no longer need to speak to be heard. You no longer need to be seen to be felt. All that remains is presence. Pure, radiant presence. And as you continue to rise, your energy expands into something luminous, not in the sense of light as we know it, but light as understanding, light as liberation, light as truth. You begin to remember other lives, not as stories or memories, but as energies, lessons learned, loves experienced, wounds healed and repeated. You see the full pattern, the tapestry your soul has been weaving through time. And it's beautiful not because it's flawless, but because it's real, because it's whole, because it reflects the sacred messiness of growth and grace. You may see the faces of those you hurt and feel no shame, only compassion. You may see those who hurt you and feel no anger, only understanding, not because you've forgotten, but because you've expanded beyond the need to hold on to pain. You see now that everyone is learning, everyone is searching, and every soul is doing the best it can with the awareness it has in any given moment. This knowing frees you. You no longer carry the weight of old grudges or self-blame. You no longer hold tight to unfinished business. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth because you've returned to the place where worth isn't earned, it simply is. You are worthy because you exist, because you are. And in this realm that truth is no longer a concept, it is a felt reality, woven into the fabric of your being. As you approach the end of this sacred 9-day window, the pull toward unity becomes stronger. Not a merging that erases you, but a merging that completes you. You feel yourself becoming part of something immeasurable. A field of consciousness, so vast, so intricate, so breathtaking, that all you can do is surrender to it with awe. And when you do, you don't disappear. You become more you than ever before. You become the frequency of peace. You become the essence of forgiveness. You become the pulse of love that never stops beating. In this space there is no division, no race, no religion, no right or wrong, just souls, learning, evolving, remembering. And now you're one of the guides, one of the lights, a presence that can inspire others without saying a single word. Sometimes that inspiration takes the form of protection, a near miss, a narrow escape, a sudden intuition that saves someone from harm. Other times it's softer, a nudge to forgive, a reason to smile, a deeper breath taken during a storm. You are not a ghost. You are not lost. You are not waiting. You are continuing, expanding, becoming. And while the 9 days have passed in earthly time, your journey is just beginning in cosmic time. You carry with you every moment of love you gave and received, not as memories, but as energies that have become a part of your soul's signature, your unique resonance, your eternal imprint. And when someone on earth thinks of you with love, that energy finds you, like a signal in the night. It doesn't matter how long it's been, it doesn't matter how far they are, love travels faster than light. It reaches you instantly, and you respond, not with words, but with presence, with warmth, with grace. This is the truth so many forget in the chaos of living, that life and death are not opposites, they are partners. Two halves of the same sacred cycle, the inhale and the exhale of existence. And just as birth opens the door to physical form, death opens the door back to formless truth. You are not a casualty of time. You are a traveler of eternity. You have crossed the threshold with dignity, with courage, and with an open heart. And now your soul floats free, light as breath, vast as the sky, timeless as the stars. The only question left is this: what do you carry forward? Not in your hands, not in your memories, but in your being. Do you carry love, wisdom, presence? Do you carry the music of all you've experienced, ready to share it in the next movement of your soul's symphony? You're not done. You are not gone. You have simply changed states, like water becoming mist, like flame returning to light. And in this transformation, you haven't lost yourself. You've remembered who you really are. There's something humbling about remembering who you are beyond the veil. Not as a personality, not as a role, not even as a story, but as presence itself. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, like the stillness between waves. And in that stillness you begin to feel everything, not as separate pieces, but as one unbroken field of awareness. You can feel the heartbeat of stars. You can sense the movement of galaxies. You can trace the breath of the earth as if it were your own, because in truth it is. The illusion that you were ever small has vanished, and now all that remains is your reunion with the infinite, the remembrance that you were always held by something greater, something sacred, something silent and luminous that never left your side, not for one moment. And even now, in this expanded state, you hold the memories gently, not clinging to them, but honoring them. The first time you fell in love, the laughter of your child, the tears you shed alone in the dark. These weren't just passing moments. They were initiations, sacred rites that shaped your soul's unfolding. And even the pain, the regrets, the things you once wished you could erase, you see now that they too were teachers. They didn't ruin you, they refined you. They cracked you open so that more light could enter. They showed you where love was missing, and through that absence you learned how to give it more freely. You realize now that your entire life was a conversation between your soul and the divine. Every challenge was an invitation, every joy was a reminder, every silence was a space for communion. And in that realization you are overcome by a soft, wordless gratitude, not for the things you had, but for the experience of being itself, for the miracle of existing, if only for a breath, in a world so full of contrast and wonder. And just when you feel you've reached the farthest edge of what you can comprehend, another layer opens. Not a place, not a gate, just a shift, a deeper merging, like stepping into a current that has always been flowing beneath you. You don't fight it. You don't fear it. You let go, and in doing so you become it. You are no longer a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean remembering it was never broken apart. You are the wind that passes through trees and temples. You are the warmth that moves through the hands of healers. You are the silence at the center of a sacred breath. And while you no longer speak with a mouth, your soul continues to communicate, not just with those in spirit, but with those still walking the earth. The mother who whispers to your photo, the child who clutches your shirt, not yet understanding why you're not coming home, the friend who looks up at the sky and wonders if you can hear them. You can, not as a ghost, not as an echo, but as presence, a subtle field of awareness that wraps around them like a blanket they didn't know they were wearing. You are the knowing in their bones that love doesn't die. You are the feeling that blooms in their chest when they need strength. You're the part of them that suddenly chooses to live more fully, more bravely, because they know you're watching, not with judgment but with joy. And this too is part of the 9-day journey, the moment your soul understands its new role, not as a body in the room, but as a frequency of love that moves through time like light through stained glass, coloring everything it touches with deeper meaning. You may be given a chance in this vastness to look at the future, not like pages in a book, but like seeds in a field. Possibilities, potential timelines, choices waiting to be made by those you left behind. And though you can't interfere, you can influence with your love, with your peace, with your gentle, guiding presence. You become a lighthouse, not forcing the path, but illuminating what already lives inside them. And when the final moment of this transition arrives, when the 9th day completes its sacred turning, there is no grand announcement, no line you must cross, just a soft exhale, a release, a final unbinding of the last thread tying you to form. It doesn't feel like ending, it feels like arriving. Like coming home after a long, beautiful, messy, magnificent journey. And when you arrive, you're not alone. You are met by the ones who came before you, not just people, energies, guides, soul companions, beings who have known you through lifetimes. They do not ask who you were, they do not ask what you did, they embrace you for who you are, who you've always been. The light, the love, the awareness behind every lifetime. They welcome you back with silence and with song. And in that welcome, something opens within you, something ancient and new all at once. You remember the before. You remember the spaces between lives. You remember the soul agreements, the blueprints, the promises made in sacred quiet. You remember why you came. Not to succeed. Not to be perfect, not to escape pain, but to feel, to grow, to love, to remember. And now you have. And just like that, the 9 days complete their spiral. You are no longer bound to a journey. You are the journey. You are the path and the walker. You are the question and the answer. You are the light that never dims, the truth that never ends, the soul that cannot be broken. You were never lost. You were never alone. You were always returning. And now you are free. And as that freedom settles into you, something shifts again. Not as a change, but as an expansion. There's no resistance anymore. No clinging. No need to know what comes next. Because you finally understand that what comes next is never separate from what's happening now. There is no future to wait for. No past to return to. There is only this eternal moment unfolding itself in infinite directions, and you are inside it and outside it, and somehow both. You feel the fabric of existence breathing, and you begin to see what you couldn't see before, that all things are connected, not in a poetic sense, but in a literal one. Every choice, every word, every thought creates ripples that move outward forever, touching people you never met, places you've never seen, shaping events you never knew you were a part of. You understand now that your very being is a frequency, and that frequency has always been playing its note in the vast, cosmic harmony. And suddenly, nothing feels wasted, not the suffering, not the confusion, Not even the times you felt lost, alone, broken. They weren't detours. They were part of the design, part of the sculpting. You were being shaped, not punished, broken open, not broken down. Everything that cracked you open was letting light in, even when you couldn't see it. You begin to feel a sense of reverence for the life you lived, for the moments you overlooked, the meals you shared, the kindness you offered a stranger, the tears you wiped from your own face in silence. These were sacred acts, even if you never labeled them as such. The way you kept going when everything in you wanted to give up, that was a kind of prayer. And now you see that every breath was a meditation, even when it felt chaotic. You realize that being human is one of the bravest things a soul can choose. To come into a body, to forget who you are, to feel the weight of separation and still choose love. That is not weakness. That is power. That is alchemy. And so, now, as you drift farther from the memory of form and deeper into the memory of truth, you feel no loss, only completion, the kind that doesn't erase what came before but honors it. You are not running from your story, you are integrating it. You carry the imprint of every laugh, every embrace, every goodbye. They live in your field now, not as burdens, but as blessings. And you, in turn, become a blessing to the world that continues behind you. There will be those who speak your name with sorrow, but eventually they will speak it with strength. They will remember your essence, not just your absence. And in their remembering you will live again, not in form, but in influence, in the way they choose love when it's hard, in the way they pause to watch the sky and feel your presence in the stillness. You are not bound by legacy, you are legacy, not as a statue but as a vibration, a presence that moves invisibly through the hearts you've touched. And the earth, the very ground you walked on, remembers you too, the trees you passed, the oceans you gazed into, the dirt that held your footprints. They all carry the memory of your soul. Because matter and spirit are not separate, they are two expressions of the same eternal song, and now that song plays through you with nothing left to block its sound. You are music without end. You are light without shadow. You are space without borders. And as you continue to rise, or rather continue to dissolve into the fullness of what you've always been, you pass through a kind of final veil. Not because something has to be hidden, but because some truths can only be revealed once you've softened enough to receive them. And what's waiting for you on the other side of that veil is not a throne, not a judgment, not a final verdict. It's a mirror made of pure awareness. It doesn't reflect your face, it reflects your essence, your soul in its raw, radiant totality, every color, every fracture, every healed scar. And you don't look at it with pride or shame. You simply look. And you see. And in that seeing you become whole. Because this moment is the completion of the 9 days. Not an ending. A return. A full circle. You left the world with a breath, and now you breathe again, but not through lungs. Through everything. You are the breath of God, exhaled into being, inhaled back into oneness. And perhaps from here you'll rest for a while, or you'll choose to return in another form, or maybe you'll become a guide to another soul still walking the path you once walked. But wherever you go, however you continue, you will never again forget what you now know. That life is sacred, that death is not a failure, that love is the only thing that cannot die. You are free not because you escaped something, but because you remembered something. That nothing ever truly ends. That all things are connected. That even now, in the silence beyond sound, you are still speaking. And someone, somewhere, is listening. You are not a story that closed, you are a light that expanded. And though your name may one day fade from the lips of the world, your presence never will. Because the soul does not vanish. It transforms, and you have become the transformation itself. And now here you are, not in a place, not in a time, but in a presence that holds no beginning and no end. There's nothing left to prove and nothing left to fear. You've crossed the river between lives and returned not as a soul waiting to be reborn, but as the awareness behind all things, the witness, the warmth, the infinite stillness that holds every lifetime like a dream suspended in love. You have become the pause between heartbeats, the silence that follows a prayer, the space where truth breathes without needing to be spoken. There is no rush here, no expectation, no role to fill. There is only presence, and the deep knowing that presence is enough. And yet, even now, you can feel Earth still humming in the distance, the ones you loved still searching, still growing, still reaching for meaning in the beauty and the chaos. You feel their tears, you feel their longing, and more than anything, you feel their love. Not because they are holding on, but because they are remembering. And in that remembrance, they are awakening too. Because that is your final gift, not the echo of your name, not the stories they tell about who you were, but the silent transmission of truth that lives on in the way they live now, the gentleness they show others, the forgiveness they finally offer, the courage they find to face what once felt unbearable. These are your fingerprints, not left on skin, but on spirit. This is the hidden wisdom of the 9 days, that while your soul was rising, theirs was deepening. While you were returning to the vastness, they were being invited to look inward, to realize that death does not separate, it reveals. It softens the veil, it brings the sacred back into view. And maybe one day, they'll come to understand this too, that you didn't leave them. You returned to where you've always been, not above them, not beyond them, but within everything, within every glimmer of peace that passes through them in stillness, within every moment they stop chasing and simply breathe, within every sunrise they watch without distraction, because something inside them feels you in the light. You are not memory, you are presence. You are not lost, you are found in all things. You are not gone. You have become the space that allows life to move. And for you, this is just the beginning of a far greater journey, one that has no map and no destination, only layers of remembering, only spirals of becoming. You will go on, not as a soul walking through time, but as the breath of existence itself, flowing where it's called, appearing where it's needed, dissolving into every life that seeks truth. This is not a story of endings. This is the story of what lives after the final breath. Now you know. Now you remember. Now you are free,